South Africa is a movie, man. South Africa is a movie. So much is happening every week. Every week, nje ko ra santsane o dutse o naganne gore what the hell is going to happen this week? Something is going to shock you and surprise you.
South Africa is a movie.
We send them a memorandum, we send them a proposition, we sat with them in meetings, we tried to convene more meetings. These people still tell us the same lies. On Monday in itself,
you must understand that you go to school to pass, to open up a space for the next poor child to come in. But you can't be kept on the queue if you are...
First, there's something problematic which was said by the Secretary General of the ANC, which is that these are poor performing students. At WITS, for you to be an SRC member.
That has just become clearer that the rot was much worse than I anticipated when I took the job.
So Eskom and NERSA are currently working on creating schedules for higher stages of power cuts. This is up to stage 16.
Welcome to the Free Ride podcast. Free Riders, I hope you're doing good, man. Oh my God. I've missed the microphone. I've missed just chatting to you and sharing my knowledge and, of course, my experiences and, of course, just reflect on things that are happening in this country. And, of course, so much has happened in the last 2 weeks. Oh my goodness. This country, South Africa, is a damn movie. And, of course, let's hear it from my boy. Boom.
South Africa is a movie. We live in a drama. It's a series. Every day you will be shocked by something new. We have even forgotten what shocked us 2 weeks ago.
South Africa is such a movie. There's always drama happening, all right? So much drama. All right, so I'm going to try and count all the things that I can think of that have happened in the last 2 weeks. And, of course, not everything. Firstly, since I last recorded my last episode, of course, this was after the passing of Keenan Forbes and, of course, and Tibbs. So they've been laid to rest. And, of course, may their souls rest in peace. That went down. What also went down, as I record this, we've been waiting anxiously to hear what the president is going to say when he announces his new cabinet and, of course, the changes to his cabinet. We know that everybody's been looking to see, to hear, to witness who is going to be the Minister of Energy the Minister of Electricity. Oh, yeah, Kunja, there's a difference. There's a Minister of Energy. There's Minister Pravin Gordhan, who's responsible for Eskom. And then there's going to be a Minister of Energy. Why the duplication?
I will appoint a Minister of Electricity in the presidency to assume full responsibility for overseeing all aspects of the electricity crisis response. You better listen, including the work of the National Energy Crisis Committee. Now, the minister will focus full-time on the work with the Eskom board and the management on ending load shedding and ensuring that the energy action plan is implemented without delay.
But anyway, it is what it is. This person, as the president said it, is purely going to be focusing on turning Eskom around, while we have a new CEO of Eskom. All right, so why do we have all these changes? Eskom is a mess, all right? We are currently going to hit stage 6. We are in stage 6. We are going to hit stage 8, and we might hit stage 18 or 16, or a total blackout. So there's so much that went down. So Deruiter went out. The former Eskom CEO, he's been let go. He's probably out of the country at the moment for the sake of his own safety. because he said a couple of things. He said that it was a corrupt entity, an entity that has been used by corrupt members of the ANC, an entity that has been used by people, these monopoly, these gangsters, these syndicates that have been doing some really nasty stuff. But listen, I didn't say any of these things. This is what Deruiter said. So let's take a listen. Boom!
That has just become clearer that the rot was much worse than I anticipated when I took the job.
We talk about corruption, theft, fraud, and it seems to be not only from within, but also from the outside. So we're looking at actual cartels, which started with the coal industry, and then we're looking at saboteurs. Talk to me about the difference between the two.
We know of at least 4 organized crime cartels operating in Mpumalanga in Eskom. Some of them also have interests in Transnet, and we see that in our inability to rail coal to Majuba Power Station, for example, where we don't have enough electric locomotives because the overhead lines are stolen, and Transnet doesn't have enough diesel locomotives because these are being tampered with and otherwise disabled. So these 4 cartels are quite sophisticated as far as we can tell. They are well organized. It's interesting that they've adopted the language of the mafia, so people are called soldiers, and they have a hit squad, allegedly between 60 and 70 highly trained, well-armed people, and people get assassinated in Mpumalanga. I think the media maybe has become very used to these reports, so it doesn't receive much airtime anymore, but every week there's pretty much an assassination. So it's deeply entrenched, and it is highly organized. Now, also understand that there are many hangers-on. So if there is a contractor who gets paid a pittance to do cleaning or whatever the case may be, to pay someone like that 5,000 Rand to walk past a gearbox with a screwdriver and just with a sharp jab knock out the sight glass where you can check the oil level. The gearbox oil then drains and the gearbox fails, and somebody who's got a maintenance contract is then called out. But the individual who committed the act of sabotage, because that's what it is not the kingpin. That's just one of the runners.
Soldier, yeah.
And that is where I think we have a systemic problem, is that it's really so simple. And you can't post a policeman over every employee's shoulder to watch what they're doing. At a certain point in time, you have to trust them. The measures that we've implemented, we've implemented high-definition intelligent cameras. So these cameras use artificial intelligence to recognize behaviors. If somebody's loitering in a certain area where he shouldn't be, or if he's smoking, or whatever you want to alert the AI program to, then an alarm goes off. And what we found is that whenever these cameras break down, then of course there's a spate of incidents. So these things are very well organized, very well coordinated.
You were saying that there's a well-known nexus between, or connection between theft, sabotage, procurement irregularities, and politics, both national and local.
There's very little explanation for the very vociferous opposition to just starting the just energy transition, just starting the decarbonization of the South African economy, which is an essential part of protecting our environment, growing our economy, addressing energy security, creating employment. Why else would you so absolutely resist even the commencement after transition.
So, okay, this is no funny matter, but my goodness, we are in trouble. Listening to that interview, Deruiter, just makes me just want to have my blood boil. But it's nothing I can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. Maybe not right now, but maybe later on. For now, let's just take it. So, listen, after that announcement by Deruiter, here's another announcement. They are talking about one news report says stage 8. And then the next one says stage 16. So I don't know if we'll be able to resolve all these issues, but I want you to listen to this madness.
Power utility is not ruling out, however, the possibility, and I'm scared just to say this, the possibility of implementing stage 8.
Eskom and NERSA are currently working on creating schedules for higher stages of power cuts. This up to stage 16 if need be. And we're asking you, what do you think? Did you even think we would fathom a stage 16 in the country? Well, brace yourself, South Africa. It might be a reality. It might be a reality quite soon. And NERSA as well as Eskom are preparing for it. So we gave you a couple of options to help you decide what you think about this. The first being, we have to accept it. It is our reality. Option 2, government must do something about this. Option 3, I'm going off the grid. Or option 4, time to emigrate. Now, that's definitely one that is, I suppose, a bit scary, seeing more and more people and with important skills, I suppose, that South Africa needs, obviously opting that they would rather immigrate than stay here and have to endure all that comes with the power cut.
All right, so those were the two sort of crazy stories. So much has happened in the last 2 weeks. I'm not going to talk about the SOPA, but we saw the Premier of Gauteng has delivered his State of the Province address. He spoke about a whole lot of things. And of course, just listening to his tone, he means business. Listening to the things he spoke about crime, the things he said about electricity, what Gauteng can do to contribute to the grid, it sounds noble. I just don't know if it's going to be implementable in a very short space of time, looking at the elections and election campaigns versus the election day. So we're a few months away from the elections. I don't know if all of this is going to be obtainable, but, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. So also what happened in the last couple of weeks is that sadly, all right, before I talk about the sad news first, let me just say congratulations to Mr. President for doing another advert, shooting another advert. This is probably Mr. President. This is the green Mercedes-Benz I used to shoot some of the episodes and interviews on. And by the way, once again, I apologize to all my people. Those of you who keep saying, Sipho, we want to be on the show, we want to be on the show, we want to be on the show. Come through, come, we want to be on the show. So I want to apologize to you guys. I've had some really personal matters that have really just taken me away from the streets for some time. And, but yeah, some good things that came out is that Mr. President was booked. I've done 2 music videos with Mr. President, and of course now 2 adverts. One was DSTV ad, and now it's a financial institution. So big ups and thanks to the production company that keeps giving me work, and I hope to do more. What I do hope for is that maybe just to get like a series or something, or like Kings of Joburg, or like the Queen or something like that. That'll be nice. So yeah, so I met Coach Pito at this shoot, and I was so amazed. And listen, I could not believe that Coach Pito took an interest in chatting to me. But this is also because when he arrived, I was the first person. I was sitting in Mr. President while the rest of the crew was busy preparing. I was sitting in the car. I'll show you the video. In fact, let me jump into it. Boom! Coach Pito has just arrived, yo. He's in that car over there. We're about to shoot an advert for one of the banks. Yeah, man. My moments with Coach Pizzo, I could not believe it. So throughout the shoot, I was there for the first shoot. The first scene was he walks into this chair. He walks and then he comes. He sits down. He looks up. He says something. Okay. So I can't post. I've got a lot of content that I shot from it, so I'm not going to be able to post it. But you will see this ad. He sits on a chair. He stands. There's lights. It's as if he's at the stadium, but he's not. And then the next shoot, he's dressed in some regalia. Check it out. He's dressed, not regalia, but in a Samson outfit. Or was it Dickies? I think it was Dickies. And then in the scene, he gets into Mr. President. He sits in the front and then he dances. So in the next episode, I'll be able to show you as soon as the advert has flighted. Then he says to me, Msitan, let's go grab lunch. Like about once this car that I've got. He shows me this car. It's a probably 1965 or 69 Land Rover. It was a green one. It looks like those army ones, but it's a open top, so it's a cabriolet. And the wife was like, so I got to meet him, his wife, who works with him, and his daughter works with him. She does his social media, so got to talk to her as well, which was just incredible. Then he tells me he's interested in a Mercedes, but a 450 SL, a cabriolet or soft top. So we went up to his dressing room, and while we were there, we check out these cars. I help him look for Gumtree and all these other places, and we look for these cars, and we probably found about 20 of them or so. We went through a long list between a 450, a 500 SL, Mercedes-Benz, from 1968 till 1980. Those are the classics he's looking for. And we went through a lot. He gave me his tablet. I was going through scrolling. He was here sitting on his. Then he says, his daughter goes and grabs him lunch. Then he says, Mchana, how about Kilo Itolela? Then I go Kilo Itolela. And I went and I grabbed something to eat. Then we ate.
Ministers and deputy ministers get 2 of these. And so that's what brings you to the figure of almost R1 billion. I don't think it's an acceptable excuse to say that because apartheid did something, we must do the same now. The question is, what has this government done in the intervening 30 years since such a system was inherited? And also, as I say, the system we are living under today is supposed to have far superior moral standards to the one before 1994. I don't understand why she's using that as her measurement of what is moral and what is just. And even beside that, the question is, in South Africa today, with everything going on around us, should our ministers live like rock stars? Are they delivering services to the people of the country that justify this? And if the answer is no, as I believe it is, then the government must urgently intervene, because what they are creating here is a system of insiders and outsiders. They've created this elite in the ANC, a group of elite cadres who don't pay for housing, who don't pay for water, who don't pay for electricity, who don't pay for security, who don't pay for vehicles, who don't pay for flights, who have 15 staff members in some cases, costing millions every single year. It is no wonder that this cabinet cannot fix the problems in South Africa, because they don't experience the problems in South Africa.
So, from what you've seen, man, I think it's unbelievable. It's like a pure Animal Farm scenario where some animals are better than others. When the animals and the pigs decided to wear clothes, to sleep on the beds, to drive cars, to eat eggs, it's precisely what's happening at the moment. When an animal has turned against its other animals, and now that animal is better, it thinks it's better than the rest of the other animals. But can I just say, it's the nature of revolutions. The nature of revolutions. The nature of revolutions. It's sad that we are at the stage where it does not make them feel bad, some of our members of parliament, our leaders, and those who are elected to be ministers. And this is precisely why many of them just want those blue lights. They want those positions, those ministerial positions, because of the perks. And that ministerial handbook is just like, let's say, for instance, a minister earns 120, 130, 140,000 a month. Of that 140,000, maybe they'll, and this just depends. Because what happens is that you get a ministerial home that costs up to 10 million. On that property, you're not paying rates, you're not paying anything. Yes, maybe you will still have the house that you used to live on or live in before you moved into your new parliamentary home. Then you get a car in Pretoria, and then you get a car in Cape Town. Some, their protectors drive between provinces, so you fly, the protector drives, that's what happens in some cases, right? But for some ministers, they have 2 cars and 4 bodyguards. They don't pay for electricity. They don't have electricity problems. They don't pay rates and services. So when they get their money, they get it as is. And then they only pay maybe for their kids' school fees, maybe pay off their other bonds if they do that. But that's the nature of where we've come to, where our leaders don't feel that it's wrong, where they don't cut the fat. And I think this is what South Africa needs at the moment. It needs a president and its leaders who will look at the state of the country and say, "Arenteng mafura, are cutting mafura, arantse." When you when you are opening an animal, you cut the skin out, you cut the fat out, you separate the fat from the meat. And at the moment, we need to drastically be seeing a leadership that is going to cut the fat, Let's just kill our perks. Let's cut down on our state security. Let's cut down on, maybe some will say, but Sipo, Harinta, the state security, our ministers and president and all of them are going to be at risk. Maybe. But aren't we all in risk? And sometimes what happens is that when that person leaves the office, their level of risk literally shoots down. So they are no longer risky at all. They no longer have the protection. And I don't know if things are as bad as people wanting to kill ministers and deputy ministers and, all these people. I don't know. And if it were the case, all right, I mean, I think I'll find you that clip that Thabo Mbeki talks about Kadinka Abi.
And we agreed with them. We didn't campaign. The reason we didn't campaign is because if we campaigned and won, we would put in authority in the leadership of the municipality people who are criminals. They are ANC, but they are our leaders. That's why we decided not to campaign. We said we can't. We can't campaign for the ANC to win, because the ANC to win in Newcastle means to put criminals in the leadership of the municipality. We can't do that. And the fellow is talking, he says, these people of ours, comrades, who've been in charge of this municipality, they actually have on their payrolls Izinkabi. These professional killers. They are paid monthly. So they are held in reserve so that one day I'm going to say, go and kill so-and-so. They say they are actually paid by the municipality, our people, retainers.
And he says already they are inkabi telling or they are on a payroll of some municipality or municipalities. And these inkabis are paid to take out city managers, supply chain managers, you name them, and including ministers and deputy ministers in some cases. But now, even if there is a protector there or protectors there, when there is a hit on you, it does not matter whether you've got security or not. But let's take a listen to Thabo Mbeki. Boom.
These people of ours, comrades, who've been in charge of this municipality, they actually have on their payrolls izinkabi. You know, these professional killers. They are paid monthly. So they are held in reserve so that one day I'm going to say, go and kill so-and-so. They say they are actually paid by the municipality, our people, retainers.
All right, man. Here's another issue I wanted us to take a look at. I've moved on from the last conversation. I want us to take a listen to the WITS students. As a father who has a child who's attending a higher learning institution, I won't mention the name. Firstly, it's difficult to get a bursary or funding of some sort. Secondly, you don't qualify by the basis of maybe there's an income or two incomes in a household. It's just been difficult for her to get. She can't get NSFAS because she's studying what she's studying. It's difficult for her to get a bursary. So, you know, my wife and I literally have to make ends meet, which is extremely difficult to take care of 3 children and make sure that they all go to decent schools. And yeah, I'm just sad to hear and see what happened WITS, because a couple of years ago, we've seen student protest WITS. They went all out. They tore Brandfontein. One guy got killed. May his soul rest in peace. AKA even got involved with, donating 100,000 to the WITS students. His plight was to try and raise more money for the students and help those who are less fortunate. Now, there are 2 scenarios I've heard. One is that, sure, there are bana ba eleng gore ba tlhaga ko malapeng a leng dikobodikhutshwane, meaning they come from poor backgrounds. Maybe ga ba kgone, batsadi ba bone ga ba kgone. The parents can't afford it, can't afford school fees, can't afford anything. So these kids have passed well, maybe in some cases they go and then, the funding does not come through. Maybe they manage to raise the registration fees with the hope their parents will be able to raise the residential fees and book fees, and then with the hope that the bursary will come. Because now you can't wait. The moment you get your results, the quickly you apply, the quickly you are on a bus, the quickly you are on your way to Jozi. You don't have accommodation. You are hoping for your application for NSFAS, your application for a bursary will all kick in while you are making your way to Jozi. The accommodation is not sorted out. You're sleeping in the street or sleeping on somebody's couch. Or for girls, it's even worse, because now it means sell their bodies to be able to at least have accommodation for a couple of nights up until maybe the bursary comes through and whatever. It's a real sad situation. Like, for a country as South Africa, we should not be seeing any young people going through what they are going through just because of education. The cost of education in this country is absurd. It's crazy. It's unbelievable how much our cost of education is. I'm not going to talk about my household because, it's personal. But I can tell you for free, it's not cheap raising children and hoping that they get the best of education in our country. If you're going to pay, if you want the best of education for your child, you must take them to a private school. If you're going to take them to a public school, there's too many kids. And some of the public schools, yes, have performed well. Some of our township and rural schools have performed well. But if you look at the conditions of it, they are not conducive for children to learn and learn sufficiently. We've seen some good results in some public schools, but you've also seen some really poor results in public schools. So a lot of the parents gravitate to taking their kids to AIB schools. And of course, these are private schools, your Crawford College, your and all these other big name brands. I'm not going to talk about all of them. So, but then you look at the cost that it costs for parents to take their kids there. Nothing less than 30,000, 40,000, 60,000, 100,000, 200,000 a year. It just depends which high end of these schools a parent can afford. And then on top of that, these kids must go compete for space, go university as soon as they finish matric. And let's say you've got about 115,000 young people trying to make it, go to university institutions. I can't remember the last figure of all these matrics who passed, but you got to look at the matriculants, and then you got to look at those who had dropped out, who are now coming back because they've probably got some funding or whatever the case might be. So the number of young people trying to make it, go UJ, go WITS, and all these other institutions, there are so many. And then you take into consideration those who are doing second year, third year, and fourth year or whatever, and they all want to try and make it and study there and then apply for funding, and funding doesn't come through. So, there's a whole range of issues happening with WITS, but I want you to take a listen to this. Boom.
And the viewer, how long have you been trying to engage with the institution?
The sad part is that this is not just a yesterday or this month's thing. Yeah. We started engaging with WITS in January in itself. We sent them a memorandum. We sent them a proposition. We sat with them in meetings. We tried to convene more meetings. These people still tell us the same lies. On Monday in itself, they told us that the NSFAS issue would be absorbed by WITS. They'd be able to take on the deficit. And then now soon, they're telling us, just a day or so back, they're telling us that they can't be able to take on the financial yes. But anyway, long story short, WITS University has all the funds to ensure that students register, but they have no interest. They have shown us that they're an anti-black institution. Yeah. They're an anti-progress institution. Yeah. Even though their constitutionally mandate is to ensure that they redress injustices of the past, they are there to suppress the progress of the black child.
You must understand that you go to school to pass, to open up a space for the next poor child to come in. But you can't be kept on the queue if you are underperforming and want to use politics to justify failure in the institutions. So we need to look into that. Our our education subcommittee must look into that. And I know Minister Nzimande, together with the Alliance and everybody else, will be bringing a report to us very soon. And together with our comrades, to say how are they dealing with these matters. So we need to understand, why do we still have this challenge? We're spending more than 7 billion rand on NSFAS. So that one thinks it must alleviate the problem of financial exclusions, because you've got to get in and pass, but you can't fail 3 years consecutively and still fight to be kept in the system.
Firstly, there's something problematic which was said by the Secretary General of the ANC, which is that these are poor performing students. At WITS, for you to be an SRC member, you must have an average of 60 if you're undergrad. You must have an average of 65 if you're postgrad. So all SRC members at WITS are students who are well-performing, students who have graduated. I am a graduate. I have a job offer. I have nothing which I will gain from this protest. I am doing my constitutional job to represent students. So I want to make that clear to all media houses. Secondly, there is an issue of registration. As an SRC, we are saying all students who are owing must be registered.
All right, so you've heard from the VET students, you've heard from a response from the SG of the ANC, what he had to say, so I'm going to let that one go. All right, so I'm about to come to the end of this podcast. Listen, thank you very much for liking, for sharing, but before I do that, check out this particular event that's going to be going down. Happy V is putting together an event for young people. Now, here's why I partnered with this boy, all right? Because firstly, I know at the moment we're going through a lot of nonsense and shit as a country. But here's a young boy who's saying, but next year there's a New Year's Eve, whether we like it or not, because I was like, so I must promote on my podcast an event that was along towards the end of the year when so much is happening at the moment. Then he explained. Remember, us as creatives, and especially Tsagokas, Soweto in particular, there's not a lot of gigs coming around for us. And you know, there's entrepreneurs, those who are young, either they are creators who are selling clothes or who are selling food or who are... So these stalls, and these stalls are going to give them an opportunity to be able to earn an income. And also it's an opportunity for some of us who are performers, who are singers, who are artists to sing in front of a couple of people. So we thought, Norman, let's organize one go Orlando because there hasn't been one for the last couple of years. So he's putting together this thing. So check it out. Here it is. Boom. All right, so my last comment is going to be about this video I came across. I thought it was funny, hilarious because of the way in which Machitaba shutile ngateng and the little way out here ngateng. But it's no funny matter. The potholes in this country are going to kill a lot of people. Potholes in this country are going to damage a lot of cars, which they already have. I've been a victim of potholes. I'm sure you have too if you're a driver or have been a passenger in a car. But check this video out before I sign out. Boom!
Why, hello there, and welcome to the Urban Safari. Standing behind me is a family of South African potholes, scientifically named the Replacis metiasis every weekus. Extinct only in the Western Cape, the South African pothole is far superior to other species found elsewhere in the world, as it has two secret weapons. It has learnt to take advantage of a crumbling infrastructure and lazy repair work. This, coupled with the fact that it is asexual, means a single pothole can reproduce faster than two horny rabbits in a field full of horny rabbits. With no natural predators, a strong, independent pothole like this is free to prey on small to medium-sized vehicles, such as the I-20, Fiestas, and Polos, with their springs cut. Although the debate continues as to how the pothole got its name, whether it's because you can put a pot in it, or because it's going to cost you a pot of gold every time you replace your tires, one thing remains true. Whilst humanity wages war on itself for power and dominance, our path to success is eroding rather quickly, one horny asexual pothole at a time.
All right, man. This is how we come to the end of the Free Ride podcast. This has been the Unfiltered Truths. And of course, I want to much to all of you who keep watching the videos, sharing the videos, liking the videos. And listen, I will get back to shooting more interviews with young people who want to come eagerly to this show, to this podcast. And also, let me congratulate also DJ Fresh, who's just launched his own podcast. I've seen there's been like a number of podcasters who have been coming out of the woodwork. So many of us are competing for this space. And listen, let me talk about this while I'm here. There's a couple of millions of people who are YouTubers. And these YouTubers are doing exceptionally well around the world. Some of them are big, Mr. Bean and many others. And then there are podcasters. There are less than 1 million podcasters around the world. So we are nowhere. We have not even touched the surface when it comes to the level of podcasters who can come into the space and play there. I've seen Eusebius Makaza's got one. Nkosana Lukocho from the city of Joburg. I saw his podcast over the weekend. He's co-hosting it with some guy who's I remember this guy. I think he's a journalist, Xhosa guy. I can't remember his name. They're doing a podcast, so big ups to them. There's been so many. So with podcasting, listen, it's not just for those of you who want to get into the podcasting thing. You have to do it because you love the microphone, right? You love the microphone, right? Look at that. You love talking. You love interviewing people. I mean, I could go back to radio and do community radio and try and make my way back into trying to get into medium-sized radio stations, knock on doors, drop off. But then, podcasting is allowed for me to be able to do exactly like radio, but slightly different. Talking to the microphone, because I can say podcast. People who like podcasting, it's people who like to talk. We are like blah 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 blah. We are people just who love to have engagements. We love to chat to people. We love to talk to people. So if you find us not being on the mic, you at a social, you'll find the life of the party in some cases. We are the ones that talk the most. In any setting, we always have conversations. We have opinions. And you'll find that the majority of those who get into podcasting is because they've been told, Rowena, or we get told, hey, you've got opinions, dog. Hey, and your opinions are strong. Hey, fun. Or if you can take that opinion, and you put it on the mic, maybe, maybe it's something you should do. So a lot of these new podcasters is people that are passionate about talking. They are communicators. And there are different ways of doing podcasting, of course. You can do your audio podcasting and you can do your vodcast, which is pretty much what I'm doing. So I'm doing two. I'm doing the audio podcasting and I'm doing the vodcasting. And the vodcasting, you take the video, you need a plug. YouTube is your plug. You automatically are a YouTuber and you are a vodcaster and you're a podcaster at the same time. So your audio, you take it to your audio platforms like MacG and Spoo, and some of them do. I do it as well. I take my audio and I put my audio go Spotify, ke kenya ko Spreaker, ke kenya ko Deezer, ke kenya ko all these other platforms. I measure them sometimes I don't measure them. Sometimes I look at the numbers just for the sake of it, but I'm not really driven by the numbers. In the beginning, I probably was, but then I realized, numbers can be daunting sometimes because you want to measure yourself against the numbers, which is fine, which is fair. But at the same time, if you're not getting the numbers you need, you're going to be disappointed and you're probably going to want to stop doing what you love doing. So I then figured out what it should be about. It should be me loving this microphones and recording what I like to speak about, my opinions, and engage with some of the people that I like to talk to. So the people that I think would like to share their experiences and add value to you, to me, I'd like to have a conversation with them. And I've had so many interviews. You can check out the rest of my podcasts, right? And I've enjoyed chatting to a whole lot of people on this podcast, the FREERIDE podcast. And of course, what I've seen happen in the rise of the podcast in the last couple of months is that firstly, Meg G pioneered in terms of making sure that they gain popularity and everybody else wanted to follow. We saw he wanted to have this podcast network with a whole lot of podcasts underneath him. But what I've seen also is that you have to stay in it for the love of it. You have to stay in it for the love of it. It's like being a musician. If you're a musician, you sing. Sing every day, create every day, whether you're getting gigs or no gigs, whether you're becoming popular or no popular, do it for the love of it. And I often said this to artists that when you do it for the money and for the popularity, and none of them, the popularity and the money does not come, then you are going to stop. You are going to be depressed. You are going to say, nobody likes me. I'm not good enough. I'm not good. Do it because firstly, it makes you feel good, feel happy. You are playing to your strengths. You are happy about what you do. You are doing what you are good at. You are doing what you are talented at. So if you are a soccer player, play. Play soccer. If you're a musician, play. Whether you are being paid for it or you are not being paid for it. If you get paid for it, it's a bonus. And I think that's what the formula that MacG used is that, yes, he needed money. Yes, he was unemployed. Yes, he was losing stuff. Yes, he was going through shit financially, like many of us do. All right. So, but he continued. I think his passion, his drive, his love for talking to people and getting people to open up and just drove him. And then, of course, he met Saul and then they took it to the next level. But, it was a drive that kept them going. And it was a love for what he did or what he does that kept him going. He did not do it because of the money, and the money started flowing afterwards, right? And the same thing is happening with the likes of DJ Spoo. He started an online radio. He realized, no, man, okay, it does work, but it doesn't quite work. South Africa's not ready for an online radio station. I tried it. He tried it. Thibaut Touch tried it. Gareth Cliff tried it. You cannot have a full-on 24-hour online radio. It just doesn't work. South Africa's not ready for that. And these are the things we did about 6-7 years ago, all of us. And then we realized, certain shows can work. Certain shows can work, but not a 24-hour online. So we then saw the rise of podcasts because we then realized, people don't do live listening. It's not like listening to radio in your car. Like, people are busy, people are doing stuff, but they'll rather listen to things and watch things later. So then we saw the rise of podcasting. And of course, people realized, if I can't listen live, but I can listen afterwards, while I'm jogging, while I'm working, while I'm walking, whatever the case might be. So the rise of podcast is on a rise, yo. So everybody's coming out of the woodwork. Some of them were people who got fired from radio, people who could not get into radio, people who failed at radio, and now they're going into podcasting. So, and maybe radio did not work out for whatever reason, because you also see the lifespan of radio. Now, if you look at Metro FM now, Mo Flavor got fired. Just like that. Just like that. A month before his contract was to be looked at or renewed, then they pulled the plug on him. No, Mchana, we don't think when Ali, your co-presenter, you are working for us. Retlo reshuffle. And then Retlo Isako the weekend show. Then he was like, fuck the weekend show, man. I'm leaving. He's left Metro. He doesn't want to do the weekend breakfast, because now what it is that you now go and do a weekend breakfast morning show. Then they're going to bring you to Bato downgrader even more as time goes, because the lifespan of radio is very short for most people. But then the guys now started looking at people like Joe Rogan, which is one of my favorite podcasters, if not my favorite. You look at him, Joe Biden, and there's a couple of others. The guy, Steven, who does the Diary of a CEO, he's actually my second favorite podcaster. Diary of a CEO, fantastic example of what you can do with a podcast. For professionals, you don't have to do entertainment stuff. You don't have to do gossip stuff like Musa does. Ka podcast say things about, oh my God. Musa. What the hell is going on? What the fuck is going on? Like, OTA, man, hey, man, the things he says about other people is just crazy. If I was famous and a celebrity and he said things like that, honestly, neklom shagarimpa. Pa! That's what Mushendiki did. Bitch, how can you say things like this about me, bitch? Delta Musa. Anyway, South Africans love drama, and his podcast is just shot up. His podcasts have just shot up quite a lot. And because people like gossip, people like drama, people like entertainment stuff. So those of us who don't really do entertainment stuff, we're going to fall short. So also, the more famous you are as a presenter and the more famous people you can bring onto your show, the better it can shoot up your numbers. It can shoot up your numbers quite extensively. But it doesn't always work. I mean, I've seen some of the interviews that AKA had done at some of the podcasts. The numbers are not that high. I've seen 947 has attempted to do vodcasting. The numbers are not that high. Metro FM attempted. The numbers are not that high. There's a number of some of them. So they stick to the FM traditional base of listenership, which, again, I mean, I'll speak about it. It's still got the biggest reach, even though you cannot measure it or quantify it. And only once a year they'll tell you this is the radio listenership stats, but then, you cannot measure. Whereas with a MacG and a DJ Spoo and Kululek on Culture, you can see how many people viewed, how many people engaged, how many people liked what they had to say, loved what they had to say. So you can measure it. Whereas radio, and radio is also full of tricks. So you'll find that somebody is doing a show and there's no engagement on the show, meaning nobody's calling into the show, nobody's sending voice notes. And I mean, these are some of the tricks we used to do. These are the oldest tricks in the books, especially if you are doing late night shows where you've got no callers calling in. then you tell all your friends, "Hore, romelandi voice note da," or you phone people. Then you call them. Then it looks like they've called in, and then it's a theater of the mind. And then also, I remember what we used to do with radio is that you send a team, or you go on the street during the day, and you go and talk to people during the day in the street. You ask them for comments. And then when you get to your show at night, you play whatever recordings you did during the day. And it seems like to somebody who's listening, it sounds like it's just people commenting and engaging with you. So the landscape is changing quite a bit. But big ups and congratulations to everybody who has gone out and set up. DJ Fresh, I'm loving what you do. I'm going to watch your podcast as soon as I'm done here. I love what you're doing there. Who else? Good luck on culture. He hasn't been doing... I haven't watched any of his stuff in the last month or so. Penuel, the Black Pen, he's incredible. He's doing some really fantastic stuff. I like Penuel's thinking, his mind. But I think the GOAT of the podcast, the man who's the podcast giant but doesn't have a podcast of his own, is Nota. Big ups to Nota. Nota. Listen, I've interviewed Nota. My numbers went up 20,000, 10,000, 15,000. The numbers went up. Huge, crazy numbers. He's done it for me. He's done it for a whole lot of other people. And then I realized, Dore, you can get a Nota and then you get a Sipo or a DJ Sbu, and then your numbers fluctuate. So Nota's got his own followers that follow him. So you can be really, as a podcaster, you can think, Hore, your numbers are looking promising when you have a Nota in that episode. And then the next episode, you don't have a Nota, your numbers are down because people love the controversy that Nota brings to the podcast. So they'll watch your podcast purely because of Nota. And then when they leave, they leave. And that's what I've seen with my numbers. So I want to encourage all of you who want to get into it. Do not be discouraged by the numbers. Watch the numbers for what they look like, for the reality. But I think you must be driven by your passion to talk, your passion to engage, your passion to share knowledge, your passion to create, to be a creative. Do not be driven by high numbers because they can demoralize you if they are not coming. Because the 1 month you can have high numbers, the 1 month you can have low numbers. And if you are driven by that, you'll probably want to commit suicide. And then you will stop shooting. And then the inconsistency will then start showing itself. So, yeah, man. I guess these were my thoughts. It's the first, it's the 6th of, or is it the 5th? It's the 5th of March. Kausani ke birthday ya Brayaka. And then there's a David, he celebrates his 45th birthday. Then it's my daughter's birthday. Then it's then it's April, full of birthdays. I'll mention them the closer we get there. But also my birthday is coming through, turning 45 as well. Anyway, I think I've covered everything I wanted to talk about right here on this podcast. Thank you very much for watching. Listen, I truly appreciate it. Every single view that views my podcast, I really appreciate it. And of course, all the multiple platforms that I plug the podcast on, I really appreciate it. Those of you who do audio listening, who comment on my audio platforms, I really appreciate it. Who listen and probably don't comment, but they actually do listen. I really appreciate you, man. This has been fantastic. I hope God grants you the strength you need to carry on, because South Africa is a movie, Joe. Movie. I'm out. Boom.
South Africa is a movie. We live.
These things of scores, we must agree. You can score up to what? Because it's not right, those things they are doing of going to 6, 7. It's an unacceptable thing which we need to regulate so that the integrity of the club, man, is not wiped away on that day.